Welcome back, warriors and supporters, to another great episode of CWF Presents CRPS/RSD is Real. Today we have with us Kedra Holderman, and I'm so thankful that you were able to join us to talk about Peaceful Hearts for Change and what it is that you provide for your local residents, and learn more the therapy that you offer and how it can benefit many different disorders in different ways. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Peaceful Hearts for Change is therapy that involves horses. Can you explain what that is more in depth for people that are listening that don't know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Equine therapy, the concept of using horses or utilizing what horses are capable of in a therapeutic setting. It is an experiential modality that focuses solely on the horse's natural instincts and behaviors. So the therapy isn't talk therapy like traditional cognitive behavioral therapy, where you might be sitting in an office talking back and forth between a therapist and a client. The work is actually happening out in the arena with the clients with their hands on horses. What I mean by experiential is that the true therapeutic value of their experience is happening between their interactions. So it's not me and my partner and the client talking, it's the client out there engaging with the horses and interacting directly with one or more horses.
And I did see online when I was reading about the business that it mentioned being able to see yourself through the eyes of the horses, and in that way you're able to learn more about yourself. And I thought that was very poetic how that was written, and very intriguing to learn more. I personally do not know a lot about horses, and that kind of went with what you'd said about what they're capable of, their natural instinct. Can you explain that a little bit deeper for me?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's said often that a horse is a mirror to our soul. So what happens out there when a client enters the arena is they're bringing with them whatever pain, trauma, whatever their week, their day, they're taking all of that and they're bringing it into the arena with them because it's a part of who we are. And the horses instinctively react to those things. Because horses are not predators, they're prey animals, they're very attuned to energy. And so when we're out there, a lot of people say, oh, don't show your fear or the horse is they'll know. What happens if a horse knows that you're afraid? Absolutely nothing, because horses generally live their lives in the fear of not knowing. Their one goal is survival. Every single day they wake up and they think to themselves, how can I survive today? In the wild, they're always alert and aware and attuned to what's going on. A mountain lion could be climbing down one hill while a mountain or a bear is climbing up the ravine on the other side. So they're constantly under threat of predators. And I think that really speaks to humans living in survival mode. And we have our own generational cycles of trauma. We have our own individual traumas. And the horses really pick up on that and they help us heal because we're looking at ourselves through the horses. And it's a really magical thing when people start to make changes in their lives, that you can actually see the intention and the commitment and the energy and the effort that they're putting in. And that all starts out in the arena. It starts with the horses the first time they put a halter on, or the first time they start walking with a horse, or the first time they create a trail that represents their anxiety. And all of a sudden they're just marching. They're doing it and they're putting one step in front of the other and they're making changes that really will affect the rest of their life, the trajectory that they're on.
I really like how you had talked about the horses being in survival mode. And I've learned a lot recently about the nervous system being on all the time and having that survival mode. And I know I myself have suffered from trauma, and that really just resonated with me to be able to understand that switch always being on can cause this condition. With people that I've spoke with, it has a tie somewhere in there, whether it's a traumatic one incident or a lifelong of multiple incidences. And it reminded me of group therapy, but with a horse. Mm-hmm. It's that energy that they give off that you explained, that the client knows they're not alone. this horse has been through and is living what you have too. So I really like that. It seems like they grow together, and it's not in an invasive way. It seems like it would maybe help people that are more reserved with being able to talk maybe about their feelings, because that's not required of them here.
That's exactly right. The theory behind the work or the modality is that we're talking about the horses. So we don't go out there and I don't dive in and say, how are you feeling today? Or how does this situation make you feel? We're asking things like, how are the horses today? What are the horses doing? What's going on out there? And what that does is it creates a safety for people, because what happens is you end up talking about yourself through the horses. So if you're having a really bad day and two horses are off in the corner making noises at each other and you say, what's going on out there? The client might say, oh, they're having a fight or they're just having a bad day. I wonder if, are you having a bad day? So it opens, being horse focused instead of client focused really opens a lot of doors for clients to be able to express themselves without really knowing that they're sharing their feelings and they're expressing what's going on with them.
And that's going to be helpful too for people that maybe don't know what they're feeling. Self-discovery and through the horse, because I know that in the past I've had trouble being able to pinpoint or even explain what I'm feeling. Yes. And I can imagine that would be very helpful. Like you said, they're a mirror of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had clients, or I do back-to-back sessions. So there have been occasions where I have a client come in who's really ramped up and they've had a really anxious day, and all of a sudden the horses are moving around a lot and they're circling each other and there's just not a lot of stillness. And then the very next session, the hour after, they're completely settled and someone might come in with feelings of peace and calm, and they're just glad and relieved to be here. And so the horses shift constantly. They're always, and that's sort of part of that mirroring. They're constantly shifting according to the people that they're working with and what the people need. Maybe that client needed to see them moving around often. And sometimes it can feel a little chaotic out there. And so maybe that's something that client has experienced, some like emotional or mental chaos. Or maybe their life is actually chaotic, and that is something that they need to process. So the horses, again, they pretty much know what a client needs before I know what a client needs.
It seems that you learn a lot you don't know about yourself through them. Oh, yeah. Just like you said, with a chaotic environment, when you're so used to that, you might not understand how chaotic of a person you are until you can see it being mirrored back at you. Absolutely. And maybe that's the pinpoint. This is what I looked like to other people, or this is what I'm experiencing. That would explain this. Maybe I should work on that. Or I just really like how it really shows a way to be able to see yourself in a way that it's so unique, and you don't have to worry about another person telling you, where you could get offended. Or so it's really a path of self-discovery with your pal that has seen just as much as you. I want to try it now.
I will say that along with the horses knowing exactly what the client needs, often the client, it's difficult for them to acknowledge or to put into practice what they're being told by the horses. And like back on that chaos concept, they may not know how to stop creating their own chaos. They may not even know where it's coming from. And so the horses are really trying to like, hey, let's look at this portion today, and maybe next week we'll look at something else. Because every week is different and it always flows. And the horses are like, nope, that's not what we're doing today. We're doing this. It's my job to let the horses do their job. If I'm out there trying to control it, then I'm doing a disservice to my clients, because the horses do know best.
And I read too that you had personal experience with this as well, which is what led you to do what you do. And I was just wondering if you would share a little bit about your personal experience and what it's done for you.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely. I think that sharing stories is how we connect and how we learn. And yeah, I'm not afraid at all to share how I got into this and why I chose to pursue it as my career. So when I was very young, my mom and my sister and I lived in several different countries. We were in Mexico. We lived in Argentina for a while, and we lived in Hawaii when I was pretty young, like all under the age of 7. And during that time in Argentina, I experienced some pretty severe trauma, and it didn't set me up for success. We'll just put it that way. And as I got older, that trauma doesn't leave us. It's how we deal with trauma. And I chose to seek other avenues to help me just get numb, just forget all of it. And so I definitely did a lot of drugs. I was doing a lot of drinking at a very young age. And when I was 17, I realized that, wow, what path am I on? What am I doing? And so I actually went to my mom and my stepdad. I told them what I had been doing and what was going on. And I just said, I think that I really need some help. And the next step was a 27-day detox. And then I bounced around a couple of residential programs. And then I ended up at wilderness therapy. For those of you who aren't familiar with what wilderness therapy is, it was for me a 3-month program out in Utah. Basically, you live in the wild with a pack on your back and the clothes and a tarp for a shelter. And you hike from campsite to campsite, and that's your life. You do group therapy and individual therapy. And that was a huge turning point for me. And afterward, my therapist and my mom had communicated that maybe I wasn't quite ready to go home yet. And I was, of course, very upset about this because I was about done with therapy. And my mom agreed. And so she found a place in Texas. It was an all girls residential treatment program. So I went and I spent just about a year, like maybe just under, it was about 11 months that I was there. And in that time, for me particularly, the horses became my therapists, and my treatment team knew that. So while some girls were using horses to get away from what they were needing to do, they allowed me to go to horses twice a day. They allowed me to become the barn manager at the barn. It really just, it changed the trajectory that I was on. There was a lot of EGALA, some equine assisted learning going on. There was also just some riding and some just being around the horses. And it was pretty life changing, I'll say. And at the very end, they asked us to write a 5-year plan. Before we could graduate, we had to write a 5-year plan. And my 5-year plan consisted of adopting wild horses before my 5th year. So I graduated, I went home, got a job, and then almost 5 years to the day, my mom and I were going to Lifesavers Wild Horse Rescue, and we did a boot camp, and we got to train some wild horses and gentle them. So having gone from no horse experience to a little bit of horse experience at residential, and then adopting 5 very young wild horses, it was pretty life changing, and a lot of trial and error, a lot of oops, I can't do that again, and a lot of wow, I learned my lesson there. Just like life, I really do
Right.
feel like I'm a graduate of the College of Life, and I'm still working on my associate's degree because do we ever really get it?
Right.
So I very quickly realized, having these wild horses, I have a way with people. I just love people. I love the brain. I love working with people. And it became very clear to me that this was the path I wanted to be on. I was not interested in horse training. I did not want to go and train other people's horses. I wanted to work with people to make them feel or help them to find their own confidence and to find their voice. I went to a training, and then I got a contract with the Riverside County Mental Health Department. And from there, it's been a snowball effect. We help thousands of people every year. And I absolutely love what I do. It's so rewarding. And I truly find that horses are the key to our inner soul.
I really like the passion that you have behind all of this and your personal experience in it. And I feel like that passion is when people are able to do incredible things. And
Yes.
when we have experienced so much and finally find something that helps, I know for me personally, I'm the same way. I just want to share it with everybody that's going through or can benefit, because if I can save them even a moment of what I've been through, that's good enough for me. And it's not work if you love what you do. And
Exactly.
it's a different type of feeling when you feel like you're not going on to work every day life.
Yeah.
And it's something that's so unique that I really feel like this could teach people things about themselves that they won't learn any other way, or they could miss out on. And I can imagine that the benefits are endless, and the different types of conditions that could benefit from this are endless. Are you able to tell me some of the conditions that it works well with and what some of the benefits are?
Sure. Yeah. So I love working with teen girls. I find that because of my own experience and where I was, I get a lot out of seeing young women become confident and find their self esteem and their self worth. So, some of the major benefits, and this list is endless, so I'm just going to touch on the big ones, but increased self awareness. And that is just simply, it's very hard to not be aware when you're standing in an arena with four loose horses, because when you're not aware, you might get stepped on, or there might be three horses moving very quickly and you're standing in the way because you're looking up at the clouds. So it's very much a present and in the moment experience. And there are a lot of people who find it very difficult to be present and mindful. That increased self-awareness, self-confidence, a huge one. The minute that they start walking a horse, it's pretty empowering to see someone who's a shell of a person put a halter on a horse and start walking it around the arena. And now we're talking about 1,200 to 1,500 pound animals. And so that right there, it's a huge jump. I've done demos where we ask in the very beginning, or after about an hour, we'll ask, so when you came in, what was your confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10? A lot of people are, oh, I was a 7 or 6. Some people are really confident, even though they've never been around horses, and they're at a 9. But more often than not, we're getting like 1s, 2s, maybe 3s. And at the end of that hour, we'll ask them again, we'll say, how has that number changed, or has it? And most of the time, those 1s, 2s, and 3s are now at 7s, 8s, 9s. And that's in 1 hour of just being
Right.
out there with the horses. That's incredible. Now imagine that for multiple weeks, and the amount of confidence that they're gaining after several sessions. That's another huge one, because when you're out there, like I said in the very beginning, you're bringing all this stuff into the arena with you, right? And sometimes you're learning with the horses, crying, screaming, temper tantrums, all those things that young children experience. They don't get their way out there with the horses. That screaming and crying isn't going to give you what you wanted. You have to figure out a way to manage yourself so that you can get the task accomplished. And most people are very willing to want to get the task accomplished because it's out there with the horses. And so now you're creating this whole metaphor for them. Anger management, another huge one. You can't just smack a horse and tell it what to do, because it's very likely that the horse is going to either A, run away because they're a prey animal, or B, they might just smack you back, and that will be with a hoof. Anger management is a huge one. Increased positive communication, that's another big one that I really think is overlooked often, because there's positive and negative communication. And when you're with the horses, you can ask them all you want to do something. You can say, hey, horsey, hey, black horse, just go walk over to the other end of the arena, please. And they're going to look at you like, I don't know what you just said, because they don't speak English. You really have to find that nonverbal communication, that confidence that comes with it, and then the follow through, the intention. What is it that you're trying to achieve? I want to walk this horse from here to over there. You might have to pull a little bit. You might have to change directions a little bit. And in that, you're starting to learn leadership skills and how to communicate with others, and how your body is communicating at the same time that your mouth is. Mm-hmm. Leadership abilities, again, goes with that positive communication. For a client to be able to go and lead 1,200 pounds of animal, imagine what that's like when they go to school and that bully is like poking at them. And it's, yeah, I'm just not really interested in doing that. I work with horses, or whatever they're thinking in their mind, but their actions speak louder than their words. And
Right.
so there's that leadership ability. Obviously, a decreased anxiety and depression, or effects of anxiety and depression. Again, that kind of goes back to the being present and in the moment, being mindful. It really is a calming, soothing effect. And horses have a much larger heart field than we do. Humans, we're about arm's distance. A horse's personal bubble, or its heart field, is about 10 times larger than a human's. So the instant that we are in their bubble and they are in our bubble, our heart rates actually start to sync up. And so that lowered heart rate, that lowered sort of nervous system effect that we feel sometimes when we're in, say, survival mode, it's decreased just by naturally being with them. So then we start working with them, and that anxiety drops from a 10 to a 2. and they leave. And the hope is that the clients hold on to those feelings, or that they think about the horses throughout the week, or that they process the messages that the horses gave them. And in that, they can start to feel decreased anxiety at home as well.
A lot of those points that you brought up, I think, were just phenomenal when it comes to CRPS patients. We have a hard time expressing what we're feeling. I think a lot of that has to do with that constant cycle of grief. We could be at really any stage of that, and just because we made it through once doesn't mean we will next time, or we will be able to as quickly for an uninvited guest and what it's doing to us, that we aren't processing how it's affecting us mentally either. We don't want to accept that and what it's doing. That makes it hard for us to explain to other people what our pain feels like, what our hypersensitivities are, and being in an environment where we don't have to, but it's just an unspoken rule. That was a way to say it. That alone, I can imagine, is very therapeutic for people that have CRPS.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely there's the physical reaction that our bodies go through, and then there's also the very mental process. And the horses, they meet you where you are. And again, they're out in the arena. There's no right or wrong. You can do it however, the client can do it however they want to. We're not teaching horsemanship. We're opening a doorway of exploration for the clients to find their best answers.
And that's exactly the key right there, because we're guided to all these places of it's not real, it's in your head, that's not what it is, or just get over it. You can't be in that much pain. And to have such unpredictable illness, it makes us feel unreliable at times too. So this seems like it's not a rigid, this is what is expected of you, and you will have this level of horsemanship. It is purely a growing and meeting you where you're at, which we don't really get very often at times. Even from family, it can be difficult to explain to them. The more I learn about it, I can just really see a lot of the benefits that it has, especially the mental side of it. I did also read that it could improve the range of motion that an individual has, and also over time reduce pain. Are you able to explain how that works?
Peaceful Hearts for Change is a ground based program. So we do not provide therapeutic riding, which is often done for people with physical disabilities or brain traumas and things like that, because it does help balance and a whole host of other benefits of therapeutic riding. So my program is all ground based. And the reason for that is because I have wild Mustangs, and wild Mustangs are amazing horses. They're absolutely great. And they're just not the best for multiple people riding them. And it was very important to me that my horses always enjoy the work that they do. Because if they're not enjoying what they're doing, then they're not giving the clients their best session. They're not giving the clients their best version of themselves, because they're just not feeling their best. So all of my guys, they do not get ridden by clients. The work is all ground based. And for people with mobility issues, just simply getting out into the arena, just walking up the driveway, just getting outside and breathing the fresh air and smelling that horse smell, and getting your hands on them. Grooming a horse is helpful with mobility. Just the constant, and we call it a moving meditation, right? So doing the same action over and over again, and then breathing through that. So your body is reacting to your mind is reacting to your body, and all of that is reacting to the horse. And so that's a beautiful sort of symbiotic relationship that's happening just by standing there and grooming. And people with a lot of pain, there's no fast and hard way, like you have to do it for this long, or you have to do it and you have to breathe, and it's just go out there and just be with the horses. And the horses are going to tell you if they want to do it, they'll stand there for hours and let you do it. If they walk away, maybe there's a little bit of fleck of hay over there and they saw it and they're like, oh, I'm going to go get that hay. And so the human sort of condition is that we naturally personalize just about everything that happens around us, to us, and because of us. And so one of the amazing things that people figure out is that not everything that happens in your world is because of you. Sometimes it's just natural. And that's one of the biggest messages that the horses give is, yeah, I'm going over because I see some hay over there. It's not because I don't like you. It's because I want that more. Right. And so that kind of plays a role. So back to that mobility concept, there's no rule that says you can't follow a horse. So walking is one of the best things that humans can do for our bodies physically. And so you end up doing quite a bit of walking. If you choose to, you can walk around and follow a horse all day long. And they're not going to be upset about it. They're not bothered. If a horse is truly bothered, they'll let you know because they're prey animals. So they're either going to run away or they're going to turn and fight. And then this goes back to intention. If your intention is, I'm just meandering with you, then the horses are like, sweet, we'll meander together. If you went out there, if I say this to all my clients when they're like, oh, I'm so afraid. What if it kicks me? I say, are you intending to go out there and hit the horse on the butt with a stick? No, I would never do that. The horses know that because the horses know you before I know you.
Right. I've noticed that too with certain therapy animals in general. They're very in tune, and you can almost trust their judgment before you can yourself. A lot of that is nonverbal. It's all based off of not what you are being told, it's what you're seeing and feeling
Yes.
and experiencing. And that makes all the difference. And being invited into it in an environment where you can just be you, and when we're limited, we fear we don't.
Yeah.
And prior to having CRPS, going on family vacation was okay because if we got a flat tire, we could get out, we could change it. It's the fear of the unpredictability of maybe we won't be able to in that moment of adaptability, and being put into an environment where nothing is expected of you, and you don't have that fear of what you're going to do wrong or who you're going to let down for that moment is huge. It's just huge, and it's very rare. And I know sometimes we do that to ourselves because of what it does do to our self-esteem. And when we feel like we can't do things or accomplish things or have limited abilities, I can imagine the confidence boost that you would get from building a relationship alone with so large of an animal, and just being able to connect with them and take care of them is a huge accomplishment for a person that feels like they can't do anything anymore.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you how you learned about the foundation and what made you want to be a resource.
It's actually very funny. Before we moved ranches, I was located out in the Temecula area on the Duluth side and all the avocado groves. And we had a beautiful 10-acre ranch. And my best friend is a chef. And so we started thinking because it's one thing to open up a doorway for therapeutic benefits for people who are struggling. When you say, okay, I have this amazing place, I provide this amazing service, and then still there's this sort of stigma around mental health and people admitting, hey, I really am struggling with my depression right now. It's just really, it's holding me back, or my anxiety, or my ability to communicate with my spouse, whatever. And so we had this crazy idea to start doing date nights. And this was just an opportunity for couples. You could be a couple who has an absolutely fantastic relationship, or you could be a couple who's looking for unique ways to reconnect. And so we did a couple of date nights and they were an absolute hit. There was food provided by our chef and a team building activity out with the horses. There were so many couples who were just mind blown by how much fun they were having out with the horses. And even the couples who were like a little timid to be with horses. And then there were some couples who were like, throw me in, are we riding off into the sunset? And so I ended up actually doing a date night for the founder. She came out and she absolutely loved it. And she did nothing but rave about how she felt afterward. And this was not someone who went out and she was very limited in what she felt she was capable of doing. And it turned out that she was able to do a whole lot more than she realized she was able to do. I could see the happiness, the glow on her face when she was done, the real peace and the calm and the connection that she had with her partner. It was just absolutely beautiful. So we've stayed in touch since, and I just love what she does and she loves what I do. Here we are now doing a podcast.
Yeah. They will mesh well together.
Yeah.
Definitely complement each other.
Yeah. I can say from my perspective, facilitating it, it was pretty empowering and magical to see somebody who didn't feel that they were capable of doing the things that she did. And then that she not only did them, but did them confidently and happily. And there was no judgment out there. It was just go explore. And she ended up exploring and she loved it. And the horses were amazing. And I have amazing horses because I've just let them be horses. And that's the beauty of the work is these horses don't need any special training. What they need to do is to be able to be horses.
Right.
So I don't put them in a little bubble. They're reacting to what's going on the way that they feel that they need to or could or should.
This really seems like an experience that anybody out there could benefit from as we all go through hard times. And I'm pretty sure all of us have been in that situation where you just can't really put a finger on what it is that's eating us or
Yes.
bothering us. Is there
Absolutely.
anything else that you want to include?
I think just opening a doorway for everyone to know that this is available to them. When as humans, we all have struggles. Like no one escapes life without trauma or without struggling with something. And whether it's achieving a goal or overcoming some obstacle in life, the horses really are here to help you. And I think it's time that we start utilizing them and their abilities in a way past their service to us. From riding them into war to conquering ancient lands, we've used horses and we've used them to death. And now it's time for us to really utilize instead of use because they have so much to share and so much wisdom that people, I don't think we're even open to. I don't think that our minds are capable of comprehending what they're truly capable of. And I really believe that we've done horses a disservice by using them the way that we have for millennia. And now it's time, we're the generation of woke people, right? It's like time to get woke and time to really say thank you, horses. Thank you for what you've done for humanity. And now what more can be done for humanity? Because
Right.
imagine a world where we all are dealing with our trauma. That speaks to the ripple effect or the butterfly effect. I really believe that every person I help has a trickle down effect. And, that spreads out into the world. And the more people that are healing their own stuff, the better off this planet is going to be in the long run.
Yes, there's that expression hurt people because they don't
Yes.
realize what they're doing, and the horses seem to be able to show us something that we can't accomplish without them.
Yep.
So I fully agree with that 110%, especially learning. I didn't know a lot of this, so I thank you so much for sharing all this information and giving us an inside look into what we can learn from horses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really am intrigued now.
Are you local? Are you in California or?
No, I'm all the way on the East Coast, actually.
Oh, okay.
But if I ever make a trip out there, I'm gonna have to definitely stop out and see because I've never really been around horses too much because they are so big. I was a little standoffish, but now I'm wondering if that's because I was afraid of myself in a way.
Yeah. The IGALA organization, the Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association, it's the sort of standard for the world of equine therapy. And there are facilities all over the world. And there's probably, I don't know what state you're in, but I know for a fact there are several on the East Coast, like lots on the East Coast. So if you really wanted to try it and you're intrigued and you think it might do something for you, you can always reach out to me via email and I can see if there's anything local in your area.
Okay, I appreciate that. What would be like a roundabout cost for people that did want to try and do something like this?
Yeah. So it's private pay only. Each session is a 50-minute typical therapy hour, and our rate is 95 an hour. Yeah.
That's a very affordable rate. I like that makes me happy too because I feel like mental health is it's so stigmatized but underplayed at the same time, and it's so expensive that
Yeah,
people that want the help can't afford it. So
exactly. Yeah. My goal is to never have to turn someone away. If someone says, "Oh, wow, I really can't afford that," then it's what can you afford? And to be honest, I do need to feed 7 horses. I can't do that all the time. I wish I could, However, I'm not one to ever want to say, oh no, you can't afford this. This work should be available to every human. And I will firmly stand by that.
I agree 100% that what is necessary for people to get better should not be based upon their
What they can
financial
afford.
or insurance status.
Yep.
And thank you for providing that, doing what you can to make sure everybody has access and making it accessible.
Yeah, of course.
I just can't thank you enough for sharing all of that today. It has really opened my eyes to this particular therapy. And hopefully it can help some of our listeners that it may have intrigued as well. Well, everyone, the end of the year is swiftly upon us, and I know that this can be a rough time of year for people. If you are having a rough time, please reach out. You're not alone. Even when we're closed, you can still reach us through our website by emailing us at info@crpswarriorsfoundation.org. If you'd like to support the podcast, please text CWF podcast to 53555. We have one more support group for this year as well. It's on Saturday, December 28th. That is from 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The registration for that is still open and will remain open until the day before. Groups for January will be announced shortly. To stay in the loop, you can follow us on social media or sign up for our newsletter. All of our event tickets, fundraising campaigns, and support group registrations are on our Give Butter landing page. That link is in the description of this episode. As always, it has been a pleasure, and I will see you back on the 1st. Everybody have a good holiday, and I will see you in the new year. Please stay safe, and again, don't hesitate to reach out. We are here.